the next morning, and I actually went and researched the torque specs and stuff, and they're all like 18 foot-pounds of torque for the head bolts. And so I was looking through it and stuff, and I was just puzzled as to why it was smoking so much, because while this gasket is old, right, it's still in good shape, you know what I mean? If you look at all the canals and stuff, yes, there's a slight nick here, but you see it isolates where the piston is, as well as the exhaust and intake valves. This is not an issue whatsoever. You just want to make sure that these parts here are good. These parts here surrounding the intake and exhaust, as well as the piston area, are good, and they are. I will solidify it with a little bit of RTV. Actually, Kohler is one of the manufacturers that actually recommend RTV on their valve and sump installations with no gasket. As a matter of fact, I think it comes stock with the valve cover with just a bead of RTV. They don't even have a gasket for it. So I ordered a head gasket, but then I looked at it and I said, you know what? I don't really need a head gasket. It's only this port, that port, and the piston. And the design is much better than the Briggs, because the Briggs is so thin in this area, so their gasket is very thin and narrow. These are all very wide. So if you have a blown head gasket, you would notice it easily. But as you can see, there's more than a ½ an inch all the way around the piston. And this gasket is good. So I'm just gonna, you know, put a small layer of RTV around here just to structurally solidify that, which is not an issue because, like I said, once this is bolted down with the torque specs, nothing's getting past this area here, you know. So I cleaned it up, grinded it all down. Flooded it with some parts cleaner and degreaser from my friends at Lucas Oil. Cleaned up the area for the valve cover as well. And I'm just going to put this all back together again. And then my carburetor has been, here, you guys are going to get a kick out of this. I had old gas that I just went and soaked this thing overnight in old gas. It's the carburetor. This is after 1 full hour of being in the ultrasonic cleaner too. So that carburetor should be super squeaky clean. So I'm going to get to work on putting the head back. Permatex blue RTV silicone gasket maker. Very thin coat throughout the gasket. A little bit thicker in the areas where I think has degraded a little. So I'm just going to go around it. So as you can see, I've got a little small bead of RTV over the good gasket, and I'm just going to put the head back on. If you look at these valves, they're very good, very tight. You couldn't turn them with your fingers if you wanted to. You could barely push in the. You can barely push in the springs. It's very, very tight. So this is a good head. See the dowel pins in there? That's so you make sure you get it in right. So I could see it from the top, the dowel pin, so I'm lining it up perfectly. Just drop it right on there. Boom. First one I'm going to put on is number 1. I was reading the thing, and Here are the charts, the torque specs, and the bolt pattern. The head bolts, 5 of them, are all exactly the same size. The only difference is there's one that has a spacer and a washer, and I remember it went right here. This is the number 1 bolt, and I'm going to put that in first and tighten that one down first. And if you go by the pattern, cross like this, like a star. Now it says do it up to 18 foot-pounds of torque, and then keep tightening until it reaches 36. I guess I do one pattern first of 18 and then increase it to 36. That's a lot. 36 foot-pounds of torque is a lot. Just slowly driving it in, not torquing it down. But being that this is going to be ending up at 36 foot-pounds of torque, I'm sure this does nothing. Hello. How does that get stuck like that? Okay, now I'm going to go get my torque wrench and set it to 18 foot-pounds. Got my torque wrench set to 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to start with the number 1 bolt. Now that damn spark plug's in the way. Plug's decent. I'll see if I have another clean one. There's 1, 2. Now you see, that doesn't really seem very tight. I always feel that way. That's like 18 already? Damn, hardly turned it. Honestly, does not seem like 18. Guess it is. So I guess 1 round of 18. Gonna pretty much double it to 36. That's what the thing said. Sure hope it's right, because I think 36 is quite a lot. I'm going to recalibrate this to 36. Now it's at 36 foot-pounds. That seems tight, man. Hey, as long as I don't break a bolt and it still clicks, I'm good to go. Tighter the better, as long as it doesn't break. I'm gonna go one more round just to make sure it's at 36. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Go back to 1 just to check again. And it clicks at 36. So, these are all torqued down to specs, 36 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to install the push rods, and we're going to do a valve lash. Probably the first valve lash this has ever had since leaving the factory. Honestly, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do a valve lash on this because it doesn't have, it's kind of different, you know, so I have to loosen this big time. It's already at top dead center, as you guys saw. And I think the measurements are 3 1/1000ths. It's very little for both exhaust and. Gonna have to recheck that just to make sure. It's moving around a lot. See how that moves around like that? I think it's just tightening it down. I don't think there is a valve lash. There's no real adjustment to it, you know? It goes all the way down, and that's it. I'm going to have to go look at the specs. So, my initial assessment was correct. Apparently, this model is a non-adjusting hydraulic lift. So, there is no valve clearance for this. If there was, it would be 3 1/1000ths. However, as I was telling you before, it's just 2 bolts that tighten this thing all the way to the bottom there, right? And it doesn't allow for any clearance, you know? So it is what it is. I noticed that because if this was not tight, this would wobble around because it's not seated on these posts, you know what I mean? So basically you turn it down tight and that's it. That's what you do. It's very tight. Well, I guess that's that, you know. Just make sure that the push rods are in the right place, which they are. And I've already cleaned the surface here with some degreaser. I'm just going to put small bead of RTV. I'm going to do it on the valve cover, it's easier. Here's the valve cover. Nicely cleaned. Now you remember when I took this off, I was like, there's like no gasket. Basically, the amount of torque that was put down on this to tighten the valve cover onto the head was so tight that it just basically oozed all the RTV out of here, and it was basically metal on metal. You know, that's the way they do things at Kohler. They don't have gaskets for it. Even on the crappy Kohler Courage, they recommend that you use RTV instead of their gasket. They did make them, but they made them terrible. And so they say just put RTV silicone on the sump, and it comes from the factory with RTV. I looked up their shop manual, the official manual from Kohler. It says RTV. You guys saw that picture that I just posted. Pretty amazing, actually. So I'm gonna keep doing this. So there we go. Looks pretty good. Just make sure everything's right. Last time I forgot to put tappets when I was rebuilding that engine. I had to take that sump cover off again. Can you believe that? Okay. You find the screws, the bolts. That is tight. Tight enough for valve covers, for sure. This one I remembered had this little hook thing there. Okay, so I think next thing I have to do is put on the tins that go on the top here. And there's another one that was hard to get out. I have to figure out. I have to go back to my video and look. Tins on. Cleaned up the spark plug. Putting the spark plug back in. Alright, so it's time for me to reassemble the carburetor now. This has been sitting in bad gas soaking for the entire night after it spent an hour in the ultrasonic cleaner. If I could just get this damn thing off. Holy cow. I think the gas did something to it, like it fused this cover in there now. It'll come off. Holy cow. Oh, it's fused on here. Holy moly. Did. Gasoline and the fumes, I guess, meshed it. Oof, look at that. Plastic's all like melted in there. That's not good. Not only that, I can't find the needle. Got all the parts. Carburetor's clean. %, cleaner than what it looked like before, eh? Because it was just trash before, you know. Always shake the float. You don't really have too many problems with these, but you know those brass ones on Tecumseh's and the old Briggs. You know what? I never saw where the pin was. These molded ones. Can't find the pin. That's a problem. Found the pin. And that's really tight. Okay, got the pin in there. Float seems to be working well with the needle. Bowl's nice and clean. Good rubbery gasket in there. Alright, I'm gonna use the fuel solenoid for this one. Better work right. Otherwise, off! Hit off with this head. Half-inch wrench. Nowhere to be found. Okay, I guess I'm gonna put this together onto the engine. Let's just remember how it all went. That spring goes in there. This is the tricky part. I don't remember. And you know what? I gotta put this on first. Oh, you know what? That thing had a strange looking clip. That black little thing. Oh. Holy cow, I almost lost that. Yeah, I remember. So we'll put this Z-bend in like that. There's no way that fits in there like that. It's got to be another way. It's got to be like this. This has got to go in like that. No, that doesn't seem right. I gotta figure this out. Alright, I think I figured it out. It's this one. Little spring goes in a little hole. This thing goes in there like that. This thing goes inside like that. This thing comes back down, clips it onto there. There we go. That's how it is. And this thing goes in here, right? And then attaches to the other choke thing on that plate. This thing attaches to a live wire. Still don't think it's safe, guys. This thing goes to this. That's the ground. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That looks pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. This carb is definitely clean. Unlike this. I have to figure out if this goes in like that, or does this go in like this? So this plate, this connects onto this part here. This thing over here, this tube. Goes over like that, right? So if you look at the choke, this thing is routed put it into this box here. And there's this thing. Was it like that? Or no, can't be like that. Can it be like that? No, can't be like that. It can only go on one way. Two bolts here. This was the throttle. Along in here. Is it here? No, it goes here. Oh, you know what? Before I tighten that down, got to put the Z-bend in first. It makes it easier. It was this hole, it was the inner hole because the inner hole was cleaner. So I'm going to screw these bolts on tighter so that I can get a good gauge as to how the choke is going to open and close. I think I got it all straightened out. I'm lifting the choke and the plate is closed all the way. Now I push it, it's open. That's the choke all figured out. Throttle. Alright, we're getting close, fellers. May be able to... Oh, son of a gun. You see? Damn it. Got to attach the fuel line. And I realized that when I thought about starting up the thing, you know. Wait, fuel. I don't remember putting the fuel in there. Damn it. A pain in the ass, man. Look at all these hoses too. I haven't even connected these hoses. There. You guys even see the fuel line? There we go. I forget, where does this go? It's the breather, right? So the breather should go into one of these things. I don't see it. Uh-huh. There's a hole in here. Stick out like this? I think so. Yeah, it does. It sticks out like that. Kinda cool. Kinda cool. Oh, I almost did it again! It's funny how that breather goes all the way inside there, leading back into the carburetor, you know? What if oil went in there? That would be bad. All right. Throttle. Leaks freely. Carburetor's clean. Choke. Everything's put together. It's going to be louder than hell because I don't have a muffler on there, right? Maybe I should just go find a muffler and just stick it in there. So I just went to the backyard. This is an old Briggs single cylinder muffler. I don't think it's that good either, but better than not having one. I'm just gonna, the exhaust comes out of here. Just gonna stuff this in here for now. Jam it in there. I'll probably end up welding something. Probably to another muffler. I don't want to use this because this rattles. It's pretty tight. So I'm just gonna leave that right now just to test. And you know what, man? Should I wait until that gasket cures, or do you think it's okay? I think I'm just gonna give it a try. I'm so nervous. I'm just gonna do it though. It's got ass gas in it, so I don't know if it'll start, or it should at least run, right? It's gonna crank a while because we've got to get the fuel through from the fuel pump. We'll see. All right, here we go. Choke. Cool. I don't know if that smoke is coming from the old muffler or it wasn't smoking like before. Remember how it was smoking before? Actually runs pretty good. See if the PTO spins. Oh man, I am stoked. That's awesome. You see that, guys? There's no blown gasket. Runs just fine now without any smoke. Started up really well. Runs very well. I couldn't tell. Could you guys see the PTO working? Because every time I engaged the PTO, it would shut off because it's a safety switch. You know what I'm saying? There's a safety switch involved with that, which is why it didn't work. You know, it wants to shut off because it's got no mower deck on it. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. But it looked like it engaged though and spun. You know what I mean? Man, I'm excited, fellas. Engine runs good. I'm gonna have to figure out a muffler situation though. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go find another muffler or something. Hey guys, support my channel. Buy a sticker. Also follow me on Instagram at Mowers Blowers. Check out my website, mowersblowers.com. See you guys on the next project. Have a great day. Hey guys, Boba and I want to thank you for all the support of Mowers and Blowers. If you'd like, make a short video clip like these, and I'll put it as an outro in my future videos.
See you guys next time, Mowers and Blowers!